How you doing? This is your boy BrogiNaric back in with another review. And in this video, I'm going to be giving my review, non-spoiler review, of Pixar's Soul, which was released by Disney on Disney Plus. Supposed to be in theaters, but, COVID happened. And before I get into this review, don't forget to give this video a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. We're still growing, so thanks for doing so. Now, Soul is a Pixar movie that focuses on the thing that Pixar hasn't focused on ever, this thing called black people. It focuses on this black character named Joe Gardner, who's voiced by Jamie Foxx. And this was a big deal when this was the first, not when it was first announced, but for me, when I first saw the trailer, because I don't keep up with Pixar, like their future projects, as much as I used to. So once the trailer came out and I saw this, I was kind of surprised and I guess a bit blindsided by it. But the thing that got me was the original release date for this movie was going to be June 19th, 2020. It falls on the holiday Juneteenth, which is significant to many Black Americans because it's kind of the day that's recognized as the final end of American slavery. And it was so funny to me because, recently Disney hit big. They got $1 billion with the success of Black Panther. So they were like, now we got another division, Pixar. We're going to get even more success with black people by releasing the movie starring a black character on a black holiday. I just thought it was diabolically genius that they were going to do this. And I'm kind of low-key happy that they couldn't release it on that day just so they could get hit in their wallets. That's just the cynical side of me. But this movie was eventually released on Disney Plus on Christmas Day. And alongside other films, this is the new model that they might be going with, depending on how this whole vaccine pandemic stuff works out. But I was definitely excited to see this film. And I must say I was not disappointed by this film. I knew very little about this film. I only watched a few of the trailers. And that's a good thing. You don't want to know too much about this film. But I did enjoy it. So as a quick synopsis, the film focuses on this guy named Joe Gardner, who is a black man. He's like in his mid-40s. He's a middle school music teacher, but he also is a big jazz fan, big jazz enthusiast. And his secret goal is he wants to be a part of a touring jazz band. And one day he gets an opportunity to potentially perform with this famous jazz musician. He gets the job, he's excited, and then he accidentally kills himself. He gets injured, and he wakes up, he's a little blue ghost guy, and he's struggling to get back to Earth, into his body in time to fulfill his dream. He gets tied up with this other spirit, and then they get into some wacky hijinks, and that's a basic synopsis of the film. And I'm being as vague as I can because I don't want to ruin too much stuff, but it does very well. This film was directed by Pete Docter, who directed other big Pixar movies like Monsters, Inc., Inside Out, and Up. So he's a solid director. But there was a co-director, I recently found this out, there was a co-director added to this film by the name of Kemp Powers, who was a playwright, writer. He's also, I think he has a jazz background, like a music background. But by being a part of this film, he was the first black director of a Pixar film. He's the co-director of this film. He also helped write it because when Pixar was in early production of this film, on a movie that was supposed to focus on the black experience and black characters, surprisingly, there was no black person involved in the creative process, or at least a black person of a significant rank in the creative process. So they were like, we should probably have a black person to talk to see if this is authentic or at least not offensive or comes off as kind of weird. And they got this guy, John Kemp, who has no animation background, but he does have a script writing background. They brought him in. And he's an interesting guy. If you look, I was reading an article about him. So he helped flesh out certain things, especially the character of Joe. And I like the character Joe. Joe, like I said, is played by Jamie Foxx. And he's an idealistic man. There's some stuff that this movie focuses on. It's about should you follow your dreams, and if following your dreams too much can be detrimental to your life, should you focus on following your dreams, or should you focus on actually living your life? And that story did resonate with me, especially when there's moments in the film where Joe kind of views his life as one way, but then through memes he sees his life in a different way, and how his interactions with people, he seems so one-track minded about certain things where he could be opening himself to other possibilities. I thought that was very interesting perspective on the film. We have the other character, 22, who is voiced by Tina Fey, who is this spirit. When Joe goes, he's like on his way to the great beyond, and he falls out of the stairway to heaven. It's like an escalator. He falls into this place called the Great Before, with all these spirits of essentially babies, but they're not babies per se, but they're the spirits of what will become babies. And it's this area where the spirits they're given their personalities. The personalities aren't formed; they're assigned, which is like there's some funny jokes about that. And he tries to scheme his way to get back to Earth. He ends up having to be partnered with 22, and 22 is this very rambunctious sort of a rule, not necessarily a rule breaker, but it's a spirit that's been in the system for thousands of years, hasn't gone through the process yet to be allowed to go to Earth. And Joe kind of gets attached to this character, and they try to work out the scheme for him to get back to Earth by getting 22 to get back to Earth. And I really like their dynamic. 22 is kind of annoying. There's some funny moments when you find out that 22 has had different mentors, different famous people throughout history trying to convince 22 to get his shit together, or their shit together. Because it's not really a he. You think of it as a her because it's voiced by Tina Fey, but it's a spirit. It doesn't really have a gender, technically. But there's some funny stuff with the character in Spirit. 22 being like an asshole. This is some funny stuff. Another character that I really like in this is Liba, who is played by Felicia Rashad. She is Joe's mother, and she's a successful black woman. She has her son Joe, who's a grown-ass man, but she's like, you're too busy focusing on this one dream. You should find a job and be stable. You should let that whole dream stuff go. You should try to be stable. And she's not the bad guy, but she's somewhat of an obstacle in Joe's life. She wants the best for him, and there's some conflict between whether he, wants to follow his dreams, and her wanting him to live a decent life, And there's some good emotional back and forth between those two characters. There's also the character Terry, who is voiced by Rachel House, who, if you may recognize, she was in Moana. She did some voices in Moana, and if you've seen Thor Ragnarok, she was the bodyguard. She was like the Hawaiian or Samoan lady who was the bodyguard to Jeff Goldblum's character. She's voiced as Terry, and Terry is another one of these. They're called counselors. They're not necessarily angels, but if you want to think of them as angels, they're kind of like angels. But they're the people that run the process of the great beyond, the great before. And Terry is an accountant. And Terry realizes that there's a spirit missing, and Terry is like very anal and very like things should be what they should be, and Terry is the one that's like trying to track down Joe and 22 once they go missing. Terry is kind of the antagonist, not necessarily the villain. This isn't like other Pixar movies where there's a villain. This is sort of like some of the newer Pixar movies where there's not really a villain per se. There's just either an obstacle or a certain thing that's kind of in the way, but it's not necessarily malicious, and that's what Terry plays. And there's the other counselors. They're good. I like them. Everyone's kind of either British or some sort of accent. It's good. I like it though. The designs of them are cool. The 2D sort of wispy-looking designs are really interesting. The animation is really good in this. There's some great like negative space stuff, like when he's like falling through the universe, or when he's traveling through the different realms, the different bright colors of the sets and everything is really good. It's very experimental. There's different art styles within the 3D styles, some 2D stuff. It looks breathtaking. It's really good. Another character that I do want to mention, I don't want to say too much about this character. I didn't know this character was in the movie, but this character is great. He's called Moonwind, who was played by Graham Norton. Not familiar with this guy, but this character is great. He's low-key like my favorite character. He's an interesting character. He plays an interesting part in the film. He's like a side character, but he's really great. But in terms of the whole Black experience stuff, I really enjoyed that. Whether it's the stuff about jazz, there's this great scene with the environment of the city, just the characters in the background, their various designs. But there's this great scene that involves Joe and 22. They're in a barber shop. That's probably one of my favorite scenes in the film, just because I liked certain voice actors that I wasn't expecting to be in the movie were in it. The character designs are really good, and just the humor in that moment is really solid. It's a great film. It's definitely worth checking out. The music is really good. The jazz in it is really good. And there's another character I forgot. I totally forgot about her. I think it's Dorothea Williams, who was played by Angela Bassett. She's the famous musician that Joe wants to work with. She's really good in this film too. That moment where Joe auditions for her, he's playing the music and the animation on that when he's in the zone. The whole explanation of how the in the zone thing is, like if you're an artist, well, you're not necessarily just an artist, but whenever you're doing something and you're focused and you kind of feel like you're in your own thing. Like I like how that plays into the film and how you can also get knocked out of the zone. That stuff was great. Really good jokes in this. Really solid film. I would say definitely watch it. It's available on Disney Plus. If I was to give it a grade, I would give Soul an A, or a 9, like a 9.5 out of 10. It's a really good film. Is it in my top 5 favorite Pixar movies? Probably not. I would probably definitely put this in the top 10. There is some emotional stuff that you might cry. Pixar likes to do that. It didn't necessarily make me cry or even get that emotional, but like I said, there are certain beats that I do like. But because the last Pixar movie that I saw that got me really emotional, or like close to even considering crying, was Coco. To me, this is not the emotional thread is not as strong, but it is more relatable, and I get it. But it didn't quite get me on that level, but it might get others on this level because it is that type of film. So check it out. It is a good film. They did a great job with this. I would like to hopefully due to the reception, we'll get more Pixar movies with Black people in the leads. That would be nice. I'm just saying. Hopefully we can get more actual animation directors, Black animation directors, to helm a Pixar movie. That would be nice. Good for Kemp Powers. But like I said, he was a guy outside of animation. Maybe an actual Black animator could, move up the ranks or be hired to lead a Disney or Pixar project. Just saying. But those are my thoughts on Soul. Let me know what you thought about the film in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And stay tuned for more videos. Peace.